Qinfeng glanced at these 3 skill books and found that each one was a super skill book for the spiritual system. The first one, the diamond level general skill book, Psychedelic Favor, can passively improve the spirit and resistance to spiritual skills. Of course, this skill effect is only diamond level, which is completely incomparable to Qinfeng's evolution to the ancient level, but it is also quite good, at least for ordinary players. 80% of the spiritual skill resistance effect is already very abnormal. The second one is a skill book that can delete the target's memory loss ancient level, a universal divine skill for all professions. You can check the target's memory and delete part of the target's memory. Learning requirements. The spiritual attribute is greater than or equal to level 499. When your spiritual attribute is lower than this value, this skill will not be available. Note: both viewing and deleting the target's memory require the consumption of divinity, and the higher the target's spirit and the stronger the mental resistance, the more divinity is consumed. If the target's spirit and mental resistance are too strong, this skill will fail. Memory lost. You can directly view and delete part of the target's memory. It's a divine skill that is common to all professions. This is too amazing. Moreover, this is also a reusable skill book, which means that I can decide who will learn this skill, of course. Qinfeng discovered that the learning requirements of this skill require the player's spiritual attribute to be greater than 499 times the level. For example, Qinfeng is now level 40, so his spiritual attribute needs to be greater than 1990-60 to learn this skill. It can be said that this learning condition is extremely harsh. Even Qinfeng, in his normal state, only has 25 Jiawen spirits, and he relies on agility balance to reach it. It can be seen that ordinary players simply cannot meet the learning conditions of this skill. Even the masters among players are 10 times away from the learning requirements. It seems that I can only learn this skill myself for now. That's good. After all, this skill is too amazing. It's hard to imagine what impact this skill that can delete the player's memory will have once it is leaked. Qinfeng directly learned this skill book and saved it in the greedy space. Finally, the third skill, Mysterious Phantom Ancient Level, a universal divine stunt for all professions. You can consume divinity and disguise yourself as any life form in your memory by affecting the target's vision, hearing, senses, etc. Learning requirements. Note: the learning requirements and notes of this skill are the same as those of memory loss. It requires a spiritual attribute that is 499 times higher than your own level before it can be learned and used. Moreover, the higher the target's spiritual attributes and mental resistance, the more divinity the user will consume. This Phantom of the God is not a single skill. Once released, you can choose to take effect on all targets within the range. How much divinity will it consume? Qinfeng was a little annoyed. He took a look. To use the Phantom of the God to affect a target, the minimum divinity consumption is 10 points. If it affects 100 people, it is 1,000 points. It is conceivable that this skill can only be used on a small scale and in a small range, before Qinfeng's tradable life is completely free. However, this is a skill that can disguise as any life form in your memory. As long as the spirit and mental resistance of the target are not very strong, then, when seeing Qinfeng, they will see the image of the life form he set. The image of the life form in my memory, if it is not my memory, but the memory of other people I saw during the trial, is it okay? Qinfeng has many other people's memories in his mind. For example, Mother Virginie, Six-Fingered Wizard Vickery, Killing Executioner Diarbad, and so on. All the memories of these NPCs who were judged by Qinfeng have been checked by Qinfeng. So, Qinfeng tried it, and found that he could indeed use any lifeform image in the memory of these NPCs. I'm awesome. Isn't this invincible? If I reach the Land of Order, although my spiritual attributes may not be as good as many strong ones, my skills can still evolve. If it's just this skill, the effect is not as great as imagined. At most, it can confuse some weak chickens whose spiritual attributes are not very high. But Qinfeng's core killer is that his skills can evolve. This is an ancient divine stunt. If it evolves to the immortal level, or even higher, what will the effect be? Qinfeng couldn't wait. Unfortunately, he obviously didn't have enough evolution points now. Evolution points can only be accumulated over time. Qinfeng was not in a hurry. After learning the skills of the 2 skill books, he returned to the Evil Spirit Academy, Psychedelic Favor. This skill is only diamond level, and it is defensive, but it can be lent to official people for use. Of course, this will be charged. Qinfeng thought about it, and directly sent a private message to Wanye Weiyu, explaining the matter about the Psychedelic Favor skill book. Wanye Weiyu was shocked to learn that there was a permanent and reusable skill book in this game, but she quickly calmed down. After all, in Shadow, nothing is strange. Thinking that Shadow had just obtained the Psychedelic Eye, Wanye Weiyu couldn't help but guess that this reusable skill book named Psychedelic Favor was the attached reward of the Psychedelic Eye. This reward is too generous. Although it is only a diamond level skill, it can be reused, and it is an extremely rare spiritual defense skill book. One way you couldn't help but sigh. Shadow is so strong. If she knew that this skill book was only the worst of the 3 skill books Qinfeng obtained, what would she think? Qinfeng quickly reached an agreement with the official. Usually, you can borrow the skill book of Psychedelic Favor and learn it once for 3,000 years. But if the official can find the ancient god rune for him, then each ancient god rune can be exchanged for 100 places to learn Psychedelic Favor. Although this skill book can be reused, there is also a 1-hour interval between uses, so there are still some restrictions, and it is impossible to let others learn it indefinitely. In this way, Qinfeng and the official can be said to be a win-win situation. After all, even if it is the Daxia official, the ancient god rune they have obtained is not of much use at present, and giving it to Qinfeng can play the greatest role. Finally, we can prepare to kill the second world spine. It's time to go to the highest point in the world. Qinfeng stored this skill book of Psychedelic Favor in his own greedy space. He didn't call Guiling back because the girl had already learned this skill from the mirror-clothed woman with Qinfeng. The 2 skills were exactly the same. This made Qinfeng feel a little distressed. Learning from the mirror-clothed woman also consumed lifespan. Now I have this skill book and can use it repeatedly. But then again, if I hadn't learned it in advance and evolved it to the ancient level, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to pass the 20th level challenge of the Dreamwell so smoothly. Qinfeng sighed. This is really a chain of events. He was able to pass the 20th level challenge of the Dreamwell, and hard power was indispensable, but there were also some coincidences. If many key factors are missing, Qinfeng's challenge will not be so smooth. Himalaya game area. Let's teleport there first. I don't know what bonus this second world spine will have. Qinfeng still remembered that Ashashi's said that the second and third world spines are both mythical bosses, but they will have stronger and stronger gains. The difference in combat power between each world spine is very different. It can be seen that the second world spine will be much stronger than the first world spine, but Qinfeng didn't know what it was strong in. He asked the fairy Yuan, but the purple fairy looked confused, because she was born in the fairy world that has been sublimated. She has only heard about the world spine and has never seen it with her own eyes, let alone learned about the relevant information. It can be said that Sister Yuan's understanding of the world spine is probably not as good as Qinfeng's. Then Qinfeng asked Aishashi's again. As a result, the little girl looked contemptuous. Even the world spine has to ask this and that. I can only give you a word. Coward. Qinfeng didn't take it to heart at all and replied to the little girl, "It's okay if you don't know, but you're trying to change the subject. Childish." Aishashi. Qinfeng waved his hand. "I know you are trying to provoke me, wanting me to rashly run to deal with the world spine and then be killed, but I won't be fooled by such a cheap trick." Aishashi, looking at Qinfeng's back as he turned and left. The little girl with long golden hair draped behind her like a waterfall couldn't help but curl her lips slightly, narrowed her eyes, and revealed a pair of cute little tiger teeth. He has a new original breath hum. Is he getting stronger? Bang! Qinfeng sneezed when he left Aishashi's room. "Who is scolding me behind my back?" He shook his head. He was ready to continue to ask others about the gain status of the second world spine. He went to ask Big Eyes, but Big Eyes looked aggrieved. "Your questions are far beyond my authority to answer." Qinfeng was a little annoyed. "Your eye of knowledge is a bit unworthy of its name." Big Eyes felt even more aggrieved when he heard it, and quickly replied, "In fact, as long as you sublimate Blue Star, the authority I can answer will be many times greater." Qinfeng had a question mark on his face. "No. I have to kill 5 world spines to sublimate civilization, and you can only answer me the information of the world spine after you sublimate civilization. Since I have already sublimated civilization, what do I need the information of the world spine for? Are you coming to Karajan to graduate from Karajan?" When Eye of Knowledge, Aristotle heard it, his big eyes suddenly widened, and his whole body shone with golden light. "Wait, what is Karajan? This is knowledge I have never obtained. Please tell me." Qinfeng was directly defeated by the Big Eyes. He couldn't help but wonder, what was he raising this NPC for? It seems that I can only ask Baya. In fact, Qinfeng's first consideration was to ask the frost elf Lingxi. However, Lingxi obviously didn't answer all questions. This elf said that if it was a question about some settings in the godforsaken game, it could help answer it. But if it was a specific strategy in the godforsaken game, it would not help. For example, even if it knew the boss mechanism and strategy, it would not tell it. Qinfeng understood this. Maybe it was also part of the test of the ancient god of natural disasters. So, in the end, only Baya was left. Qinfeng took the blade of Baya in his hand, pinched the soft part of the handle, and sent a soul message. World spine. "Have you fought it? Hey, don't pinch it. Don't pinch it. Isn't it okay for me to say it?" Baya's soul message came back quickly. and he seemed a little embarrassed and annoyed. World Spine. Our Haisheng Sing civilization has only seen 2. The first, the second one also failed to capture. What I can tell you is that the characteristic of this World Spine is that it is tanky. Especially tanky. Shadow. Although you have been killing everyone in seconds, I can tell you that you will never kill this boss in seconds. So be prepared to grind it slowly. When Qinfeng received Bai Ya's soul message, he immediately became interested. Tough. Then isn't that hitting my gun? Qinfeng smiled. Although Bai Ya knew that he had killed the first World Spine in seconds before, he didn't know how much strength Qinfeng had improved during this period. I was just worried that there was no boss that could let me exert my full strength. Now I hope that World Spine won't let me down. So, Qinfeng and Bai Ya carefully asked about some characteristics of the second World Spine, but soon learned that the World Spine is a powerful mythical boss randomly generated according to the terrain, environment, and other conditions of different civilizations. The skill mechanism of the World Spine of each civilization is different. Of course, there is one thing in common, that is, compared with the first World Spine, the second World Spine is given a terrifying gain of 10 layers. Just when Qinfeng took Bai Ya to the game area where Mount Everest is located and learned about the information of the second World Spine, Land of Order. The news from the Dream Temple made countless strong people in the Land of Order boil again. What? The 20th level of the Dream Well was cleared by someone, and that person became the heir to the great power. Another true genius is born, and he's about to lead an era. Is it the one from the Blue Star Civilization? Not sure. But then again, the first World Spine of the Blue Star Civilization has been killed for more than 10 days. So why hasn't the second World Spine been killed yet? If my guess is correct, that genius won the first place in the survival challenge of the ancient god of natural disasters and cleared the 20th level of the Well of Dreams in these 10 days. It's only a matter of time before the second World Spine is killed. In my opinion, it won't take more than a month. 1 month? Who are you looking down on? I think it won't take more than 7 days. Don't make a fuss. The second World Spine is recognized as super wear resistant. Besides, even if it's just to find the World Spine, it will take a lot of time, right? How can it take 7 days? The recent Land of Order can be said to be very lively. The emergence of big news one after another has caused many old monsters in the Land of Order who have been busy brushing monsters to appear one after another in the Land of Order. There are many powerful players who have developed for hundreds of years. These players are basically the backbones of the major temples. And even the characters of the temple masters, generally, will not show up in front of the public, even if it is the players of their own temple. It is rare to see people at the level of the temple master, and even the god's messengers belong to a very high status class. These high-level players in the Land of Order usually have their own small circles, and more importantly, they are all leveling maniacs. Usually, they swipe monsters in places that match their levels. Occasionally, they will gather in 2s and 3s to attack some high-level boss, and they swipe monsters for several months at a time. So in front of ordinary players, these high-level players are almost gone. But when one after another outrageous news came out, the god's messengers, temple masters, elders, and other high-level players of the major temples all emerged. If it were just an ordinary genius, it would really not attract their attention. After all, they themselves are geniuses. However, geniuses are also divided into different levels. Some old guys have seen what kind of bloody storms and storms a super genius who has obtained power will stir up when he comes to the Land of Order. That is a chaos that no one can escape from. The genius who can pass the challenge of the 20th level of the Well of Dreams is said to have obtained the power of psychedelics. The last time a genius with great power came to the Land of Order was more than 400 years ago. That time, all the temple forces in the Land of Order experienced a major reshuffle. With that genius going to the high heaven in just 100 years, our Land of Order has been peaceful for more than 300 years. Finally, it's going to be a storm again. A storm is brewing in the entire Land of Order. The most eye-catching among them are the players from the Blue Star Civilization. As the news spread, the players of Blue Star were getting more and more attention, but at the same time, not many people took the initiative to contact them. This is still because people are not sure about the identity and camp of the genius of Blue Star Civilization. If you make friends blindly, it may not be beneficial, but may also cause trouble. But one thing is that these old guys who have escaped have investigated the situation of Blue Star clearly. Blue Star has Dacia, North America, Western countries and other different camps divided into countries. At present, Dacia and North America are the two most powerful camps. The overall strength of other camps is weaker. In particular, Taiyo Okamoto, who died last time because of the decline in the reincarnation ranking and the weakening of the gain, came from the Sakura country of Blue Star Civilization and was regarded as a joke by many civilization masters. The Sakura country of the Blue Star Civilization is said to be a small country. There are not many people in the Land of Order. Now, The Thousand Eyes Temple is a little embarrassed because of that Okamoto Taichung. It's too embarrassing. However, it is possible that the genius of the Blue Star civilization is from the Sakura country. Logically speaking, if he can kill the world spine, that genius must have the strength to come to the Land of Order. But why didn't he choose to challenge the temple forces in the Land of Order? Don't you know which force to choose? He has obtained the power of psychedelics. Which force should he choose? Is there any need to say? It's not certain. It's possible that he hasn't found the entrance to the challenge yet. This is considered luck, right? If he comes to the Land of Order, he will get a lot of information. But he will also lose the opportunity to participate in many challenges, such as the reincarnation gains of the ancient gods. Yes, not being able to challenge the reincarnation gain is just one of them. There are many hidden challenges that will disqualify you. In just 3 months, it's unheard of to develop to this point. Even the super geniuses of more than 400 years ago were not so outrageous. Many old guys in the Land of Order rarely gathered together and talked about it. And they didn't realize at all. The genius of the Blue Star civilization they were talking about, Qin Feng, was reborn with memories. What they didn't know was that Qin Feng was guided by Ashasis's illegal and had gained a lot of advanced knowledge reserves. Come to the Land of Order. At least, it will take a long time for Qin Feng, a Blue Star player, to come to the Land of Order. He has plenty of time to stay in the Blue Star civilization, to develop, and if he wants high-level resources, he can go to the sublimating Blue civilization after killing the Third World Spine. With the existence of Ashasis, everything has been arranged for Qin Feng, the best route to upgrade. At this moment, Qin Feng was carrying the White Sprout Blade, while communicating deeply, and came to the game area corresponding to the world's highest peak, the Himalayas. In reality, this mountain range is the border between countries. In the corresponding game area, there are no city ruins and the number of players is very small, but as the game progresses faster, just like the Arctic Circle game area, gradually many players come here, build guild strength, and build some hiding places. The monsters refreshed here are generally above level 20. At present, mid to high-end players can swipe them, and there are still many players from various countries gathering here because there are no city ruins. There is no public teleportation array, so Qin Feng first flew here in reality, and then forced to switch to the corresponding game area, which is the most time-saving, and now Qin Feng, through the soul communication with Bai Ya, has learned the basic situation of the Second World Spine. It turns out that this Second World Spine is a huge mountain. This mountain has no weaknesses, so my weakness attack will be completely ineffective. This is why Bai Ya thinks that I can't kill this mountain in 1 second. Indeed, without the weakness damage bonus, Qin Feng's damage will be more than 10 times lower. However, Qin Feng's damage does not all come from weakness damage, and he still has many methods that have not been shown. In addition, this World Spine has the ability to regenerate infinitely once its first life is killed. It will split into countless pieces of rubble. If these pieces of rubble cannot be completely smashed, then the boss will be resurrected with full blood. Qin Feng has understood why the Heixing Sing civilization, where Bai Ya was at that time, could not defeat this boss. Through Bai Ya's detailed explanation of the mechanism of this boss, Qin Feng found that if the individual combat power is not enough, then no matter how many people come, it is impossible to kill this boss, because this Second World Spine mountain, any attack and skill is a super large scale attack. The death wings behind Qin Feng spread out, taking him from the gray clouds to a super giant snow mountain that stood at a very high altitude. The terrain of the Himalaya game area is different from reality. In reality, there are many peaks over 8,000 meters high around here, but in the game, there is only one. Moreover, the sky in the game is always gray, and no one knows what exists in the endless gray fog. Although some flying players have tried to explore, they have not been able to fly too high and touch an insurmountable obstacle, just like an air wall. However, the higher the attribute value of the player, the higher the height they can fly, and the air wall seems to be just a restriction on strength. That is, the spine of the world. Qin Feng looked at the super giant snow mountain peak that emerged from the gray clouds. His expression was normal, facing the giant. Qin Feng had no fear. Even the bigger the opponent, the better, because that means that he can exert the highest tenfold damage increase from the bloodline of the Deathwing Angel. However, to open this World Spine mountain, some pre-processes are still needed. If those processes are not completed, then this mountain is just an ordinary snow mountain. When Qin Feng arrived, his shadow perception swept casually and found that there were many players in the middle and foot of the snow mountain who were leveling up and fighting boss. Among these players, there are those from Daxia and those from other countries around, such as Chanju, Beitan, Wudan, and so on. This makes the environment of this game area still a bit complicated. Players from different countries are divided into various camps and fight on their own. Of course, there are also mixed ones. And there are also foreign players who have joined the Daxia Player Guild, etc. With so many people leveling up, if I open the boss directly, I'm afraid there will be heavy casualties. Kainfeng was too lazy to pay attention to people from other countries, but Daxia players still need to be notified. Anyway, it's just a matter of a word. As for whether the other party will leave or not, that's their own business. Swish. The death wings behind Qinfeng fluttered and fell. At the same time, he cancelled his invisibility and appeared not far from a group of Daxia players who were leveling up on the hillside of the snowy mountain. This group of Daxia players included both men and women. Among them were several tall girls who looked a bit like those from the western regions. They were healing their teammates and chatting quietly. Suddenly, Qinfeng's figure appeared not far from them. Because there were many conflicts between players in this place, they reacted immediately. Among them, there was a girl who raised her hand reflexively and threw a white light ball at the ground. In front of Qinfeng, bang! Qinfeng had just appeared and landed when a hole was smashed in the snow in front of him, which stunned him. The players here, are they so fierce? However, the opponent was obviously just giving a warning, otherwise the light ball would not have hit the ground. But Qinfeng, as for whether the opponent's skills were not good enough and it hit the wrong side, Qinfeng believed that there should be no one in the world who was worse than Qin Xiaoyu, right? Even if there was, such a rookie would not come to such a dangerous area before Qinfeng made any move. As a result, the tall priest girl who hit the white light ball seemed to realize that something was wrong. She raised her hands at the first time. Surrender. Surrender? I surrender? Sorry. Brother Shadow, I didn't mean it. I didn't know it was you. The girl trembled a little. Her eyes were watery, as if she was about to cry, and the faces of the people around her changed drastically. Shadow. This codename is well known to any player in the world. Who doesn't know it? But these players really didn't expect that Shadow would suddenly come to their nowhere place. Immediately, several male players flashed in front of the priest girl who released the white light ball. With a vigilant look, I'm sorry.
Brother Shadow.
Our sister didn't mean it. If you want to kill me, kill me. That's right. Our sister is just too vigilant. She didn't mean to attack you. Please spare me. If you want to kill me, kill me. If you really can't, you can set a condition. How many lifespans? We will sell everything we have to give you. A group of people gritted their teeth, obviously extremely nervous. Qinfeng was puzzled. Is his reputation so cruel outside? This misunderstanding is not necessary, right? Don't worry. I won't kill the whole family just because someone looked at me. Qinfeng glanced at the other party. He looked at her calmly and said, however, you spread the news. All players on the mountain and at the foot of the mountain, leave immediately. I'm going to fight the boss. Hearing his words, the group of players finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then they were a little excited and surprised. Fighting the boss? What boss is the big brother gonna fight? It can't be a mythical boss, right? The priest girl, who had just raised her hands to surrender, her eyes lit up and asked, well, I'm a priest, with the blood of the oracle. I can brush your skill cooldowns, and the amount of healing is also large. Do you need my help? No. You go quickly. Don't waste time. Qinfeng glanced at the girl and waved his hand quickly. The other party was obviously a little disappointed, but he didn't dare to stay for long, and quickly left with his teammates. Qinfeng began to spread the shadow perception and search for 3 legendary Stoneman bosses that open the world spine around here. There are 3 Stoneman bosses. As long as you kill them, you can activate the second world spine. Just when Qinfeng was looking for the Stoneman to kill, the news that Shadow came to the Himalaya game area quickly spread around. It was not only among Daxia players, but also quickly spread to the ears of some players from countries such as Changzhou and Bataan. Many players, after hearing the news, first doubted the truth, but seeing that the Daxia players were indeed evacuating quickly, they followed suit. Only some Tianzhu players who were spawning monsters on the mountain heard the news and sneered on the spot. Shadow is coming. Whoever believes it is stupid. Everyone, don't leave. It must be a trick of Daxia players, trying to lure us away and evacuate and snatch our emerald level boss? Yes. It must be Daxia players who want to lure us away and occupy our spawning point. Do you really think we are fools? Daxia pigs are too naive. Which idiot came up with this method? That's right. Even if Shadow wants to come here to fight the boss, he can just fight it. Can it affect us? Just 5 minutes later, Qinfeng found the first Stoneman boss buried in the snow in a valley. This is a legendary world spine front boss. According to Baiya, these 3 front Stoneman bosses also have different mechanisms and are not easy to deal with, but it's a pity. Qinfeng didn't see the mechanism of this boss at all. When this boss stood up from the snow, it probably didn't see clearly what players were around it. Its blood volume of more than 1 billion was instantly killed by Qinfeng, and it was killed before the throat cut damage was calculated. Then Qinfeng looked at it, and its body exploded instantly, revealing a lot of legendary and mythical loot. Qinfeng checked it casually and found that the attributes of these equipment were relatively ordinary, and there was no divine weapon. Although 4 sublimation scrolls were released, the additional order was not usable by Qinfeng. 3 of them were sublimation scrolls used by magic, and 1 was a shield bonus. By the way, this perfect shield defense order is too powerful, isn't it? As long as the attack is blocked by the shield, its damage will be 100% blocked. If this is done properly, wouldn't it be invincible below the myth level? Qinfeng felt a little pity. Why didn't he get this thing in his previous life? But I don't care about this order in this life. Now, those who have not reached the myth level, have no divine weapons and divine special skills, are as fragile as ants in front of Qinfeng. Even if there is such an order, Qinfeng can consume his divinity to offset it. After all, Qinfeng's divinity is now all gathered in the psychedelic bracelet, Divine Inherent. This bracelet, given by the Dream God, is really useful. Qinfeng collected all the spoils. Then he continued to search around the mountain. With the existence of the shadow perception, Qinfeng was still relatively fast in finding the boss, but it doesn't mean that he can find it instantly. After all, the larger the range of perception, the higher the information processing capability required. In this area, there are tens of thousands of monsters alone, and it takes a lot of time for Qinfeng to screen them one by one. On the way to find the boss, Qinfeng found that most of the players in this area have left, but there are still some players who don't listen to the advice and are still spawning monsters and fighting boss here. The most important of which are some players from Tianzhu. Qinfeng couldn't understand what they were talking about. It sounds a bit like English, but not quite. But if it's English, the accent is too outrageous, right? In short, Qinfeng didn't understand, but he was too lazy to pay attention to them. The original intention of Qinfeng's message was just to let the Daxia players in this area evacuate. As for the players from Tianzhu, Qinfeng didn't have so much time to care. You can leave or not, and it's a plea if you die. Found it. The second one. When Qinfeng went around half of the mountain and came to the halfway point on the back of the mountain, he finally felt that there was a snow-white stone man squatting in a cave, and outside the cave where the stone man was, more than 10 kilometers away, there was a team of Tianzhu players who were leveling up by killing monsters. In that cave, there's a dormant legendary boss. That boss is what Shadow wants to kill, right? We are more than 10 kilometers away, and that boss can't affect us. It's really funny to let us leave this area. The skin of this group of players is a little dark, and they are thin. They don't look like important figures in Tianzhu. In fact, there are some players in Tianzhu who are quite powerful, but those who are really powerful are unlikely to leave their hometown to develop so far away. The reason why they didn't leave after getting the news is because they guessed that Qinfeng was going to kill that legendary boss. In their opinion, the legendary boss would not pose much threat to them, who were more than 10 kilometers away. What's more, they also knew that the legendary Shadow could kill even the mythical boss. So this legendary boss could be killed at will. So what danger could they be in? This monster spawning point has a fast monster spawning speed and a high explosion rate. If you want us to leave, forget it. These 6 skinny players from Tianzhu country had no intention of leaving at all, and Qinfeng ignored them. After entering the cave and killing the legendary boss in seconds, he left. Dead. Dead? Dead instantly. That boss is dead. The snow scorpion I summoned didn't even see Shadow, and the boss suddenly disappeared. Hiss, Shadow, the damage was so high that the legendary boss was killed instantly, and he didn't even show up. It's a pity that I didn't see what the boss exploded. Snow Scorpion, only saw the boss being killed instantly. And then I was also killed instantly. These Tianzhu players were shocked instantly, but after a few minutes, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. The Shadow didn't kill us. That's right. If he wanted to kill us, we would have died. It means he doesn't think highly of our spawning point. Isn't this nonsense? The Shadow is already level 40, and he still thinks highly of our level 25 monsters. This is reassuring. We can continue to spawn monsters. He killed the boss, and now he is left. However, just as they were thinking this, suddenly, the snowy ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The violent shaking made them all stagger. Although they were all in their early 20s, none of them could stand firmly and fell all over the place. What's going on? The players were confused. Not only these 6 people, but also other players who were leveling up in this area were all knocked to the ground. They fell to the ground and looked up to see that the supergiant mountain that they had always remembered as unchanging suddenly shook like a giant standing upright, shaking its body and shaking off the layers of snow on its body, and the snow that fell from the mountain. For the players in this area, it was like an unprecedented blizzard disaster. What's going on? Go! Go! This mountain is alive. Not only the hundreds of players who stayed in this area to level up were shocked, even more shocked were most of the players who evacuated out of this area in advance. Whether they were players from Daxia or other countries, they all looked ahead in shock. The monster spawning area they were just in the entire mountain was shaking violently. Some players did not evacuate far enough and were still at the foot of the mountain, and were directly hit by countless blizzards. Players were scared and fled in all directions. And this was the movement caused by Qinfeng finding the third front Stone Man boss and killing it instantly. The second World Spine finally appeared, and this time, this World Spine, the Spine boss, which was so high that its peak could not be seen at a glance, appeared directly in front of many players. World Spine Mountain Level 45. Grade. Mythical. Enhancement gain. 10th floor. When the surrounding players looked up and saw these 3 lines of text appearing above the towering gray sky, they were all shocked and speechless. World Spine. Mountain. Mountain is actually a mythical boss. Many players couldn't help but exclaim, "Are all mythical bosses so awesome?" I still remember that the first mythical boss killed by Shadow was the mythical World Spine Sea. This mountain is a mountain, and the sea is a sea. Oh my god. Aren't you talking nonsense? A sea shadow. Killed a sea more than half a month ago. All the players present were in a state of disbelief. A mountain. Originally, they thought it was just the title of the boss, but now it seems this title is the form of the boss. Such a terrifying boss. They were terrified at the first sight, but Shadow could actually kill it. So, Shadow asked us to leave early just to fight this mythical boss. And this boss has 10 layers of enhancement. What does this enhancement mean? Look at the boss health bar 119. 8 billion health points. There is a status bar below the health bar, and it seems that you can see the effect of 10 layers of enhancement. But the distance is too far, and I can't see it clearly. Oh, my visual enhancement talent is finally useful. Let me tell you, the 10 layers of enhancement will reduce the damage of assassin professions by 66%, the damage of mage professions by 75%, and the damage of warrior professions by 50%. Wouldn't it be very difficult for Shadow to kill it? In short, let's run away first. If Shadow can't beat it, won't we be dead? At the same time, Qinfeng also had a headache after seeing the 10 layers of enhancement effect of this boss. These 10 layers of enhancement gain are random gains made according to the situation of each civilization. In the Blue Star civilization, the top 10 players in the current level ranking include 2 assassins, 3 mages, and 1 warrior. So, the profession of each of the top 10 players in the global level ranking will provide double damage reduction to this boss, since there are 2 assassins, me and Ghost, in the top 10 rankings. The damage of the assassin profession to the boss will be divided by 3, which is 66. A 6% damage reduction, and there are 3 mages in the top 10. So the damage of the mage profession to the boss will be divided by 4, which is 75% damage reduction for Qinfeng, although it is only 6% damage reduction. But coupled with the fact that this boss has no weaknesses, causing Qinfeng's damage to plummet, the total damage reduction is an additional 93%. In addition, this guy's health bar is directly 10 times that of the first World Spine. If Qinfeng hadn't improved greatly recently, he really couldn't guarantee that he could kill this boss in 1 second. Of course, when this World Spine mountain was just activated, there was an invincible rule shield on its surface, which could not be broken by any technical means, whether it was order or divine rules. It was impossible to break that rule shield. Qinfeng couldn't help but ask the white sprout blade in his hand, "What is this shield?" Baya replied a little aggrieved, "I don't know, when our civilization fought, there was no such thing. It should be the characteristic mechanism of your civilization." I said that the situation of each civilization is different. Moreover, when our civilization fought, the 10 layers of gain were not based on profession, but on country. If a country has the most players on the list, then the players of that country can't beat this boss. The damage reduction is too serious. There is such a thing. Qinfeng couldn't help but feel a little fortunate. Fortunately, we are not following the country. Otherwise, our top 10 in the world are all from Daxia. Wouldn't this directly reduce the damage by 90%? Qinfeng smacked his lips, looking at the supergiant mountain covered by the invincible rule shield. Qinfeng, who was hiding in the surroundings and flapping his death wings, had no clue at all. He wanted to kill it instantly, but he didn't know where to start. Just when Qinfeng was about to observe it first, suddenly, a violent vibration wave broke out from the center of the mountain and instantly spread to the surrounding dozens of kilometers. Bang! The super large-scale vibration wave whistled in. Even Qinfeng didn't have time to dodge and was swept by the vibration wave and hit on the spot. The key is that Qinfeng wanted to hide, but he didn't know where to hide. The range of the shockwave was too large, covering the sky and the ground and the surrounding area of dozens of kilometers. For damage resistance, a damage number appeared above Qinfeng's head. Although he didn't dodge, the damage was finally weakened and was completely resisted by Qinfeng. So weak, Qinfeng was a little surprised. But he quickly clicked on the damage details. The damage of the shockwave is physical damage. The final damage is 192 points. and my damage resistance is 679 points. So this damage was completely resisted by me, although it looks weak, but Qinfeng calculated it a little and figured it out. The basic damage of this physical shockwave is 30 million. This is a mythical boss whose attack damage has a super strong defense breaking effect. Fortunately, I have 36% solid defense, which retains 79% front. 7 times physical damage reduction. Otherwise, this wave of damage would trigger my injury limit. Qinfeng calculated calmly. He has 79% physical damage reduction, plus 99. 70% 330, 2 times additional damage reduction, which adds up to 99. 3% 55. 12 times damage reduction for every attack of 1t5. 1000 basic damage. Qinfeng will eventually receive 1 point of damage, so it can be deduced that the basic damage of the boss's shockwave is 30 million unconsciously. This level of damage can't break my defense. Qinfeng was a little emotional. It's mainly the 90% additional damage reduction from the God of Skeletons, which is really awesome. Otherwise, this wave really can't be completely blocked, and Qinfeng blocked it here. The hundreds of Qianzhu players who were still on the mountain, now all staggering and falling, crawling around, were crying without tears. Up to 30 million basic damage. They took it with their heads, and this damage is an all-round explosion, completely ignoring the damage of dodging. According to the different defense and damage reduction of the players, a bright red damage number ranging from millions to tens of millions appeared on their heads, and then they fell to the ground one after another, and their bodies were smashed to pieces by the shockwave. And when the group of players were wiped out by the boss in one wave, they quickly resurrected from various hiding places at the foot of the mountain, and then they despairingly discovered that when they died in the hands of this World Spine Mountain, 50% of their total attributes were actually used as nutrients to feed this boss. They lost this 50% of total attributes forever? Fuck. I'm done. Damn it. Why did I stay in that area just to kill those damn monsters? Wait. Although I lost 50% of all attributes. This is good news. Your head is on your butt. How can this be good news? Think about it. If Shadow also died at the hands of this boss, wouldn't it mean that Shadow's attributes would be weakened by half? That's right. The damage of this boss is so high at the beginning, and it must be even more terrifying later. How can Shadow, an assassin, resist? As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly realized it, but they didn't know it all. The first wave of shockwaves from this boss didn't even break Qinfeng's defense. When this shockwave erupted, all the players still on the mountain were killed. Shields. Damage shields. And dodges were all unable to withstand the damage of this shockwave. As for some invincible skills that can prevent death, although they are effective, the shockwave damage came too quickly. Among the hundreds of people, no one could react and was killed instantly. When those hundreds of people were killed, the entire World Spine Mountain absorbed 50% of their attributes. The Stealing Hand. Qinfeng remained invisible, and the Death Wings behind him spread out, taking him into an invisible airflow. Crashing into the body of the World Spine and reaching out to grab it, you released the Stealing Hand on the World Spine Mountain, and you stole Strength. 10. Zhaozen. You stole Constitution. 10. Hanan. You stole Agility. 10. Zhaozen. And you stole Spirit. 10. Zhaozen. Wow. All 4 attributes have soared by 10,000 points. Qinfeng's combat power has been improved in all aspects. The Death Wings behind Qinfeng fluttered, taking him away from the boss body. He looked at the towering World Spine in front of him, which was completely invisible, and frowned slightly. The boss's shield is still invincible, and just with the 30 million basic damage just now, it's still not that easy to kill a player with a full set of mythical equipment. Qinfeng is very clear about the combat power of players in the godforsaken game at different stages. For example, the Heishingsing civilization where Baiya is located, in the reincarnation she was in, the Heishingsing civilization failed to defeat the second World Spine. Then it means that the shockwave of 30 million basic damage is just an appetizer. Because to really attack this mythical World Spine, the participating players must at least have a full set of mythical equipment, right? For a full set of mythical equipment, the damage reduction, solid defense, defense and resistance have all reached a very high level, although not as abnormal as Qinfeng. The total damage reduction should be around 8%. In other words, it is equivalent to 100 to 500 times the damage reduction. With this kind of attribute combat power, the basic damage of 30 million can only cause a little over 100 wisdom damage at most. And which player with a full set of mythical equipment has a health volume of over 1 million? With a complete team professional configuration, the damage of 100,000 or so can be completely ignored, and and the priests and nurses in the team can heal it with just a raise of their hands. So, just as Qinfeng expected, just after the large-scale shockwave with a basic damage of 30 million broke out, 3 seconds later, the second shockwave broke out again. This shockwave has higher damage than the first shockwave and faster speed. Although Qinfeng was well prepared and had his back to the boss, unfortunately, his despicable Terminator order did not take effect in the face of this shockwave damage. This shockwave still affected him, 40 million basic damage. The damage is getting higher and higher. I understand. Qinfeng immediately understood the basic mechanism of this boss, which is the soft rage mechanism often encountered in online games in the past. As time goes by, the boss will release skills with higher and higher damage. If the boss cannot be killed within the specified time, then the strategy team will be wiped out as the final outcome. If the players participating in the strategy generally have strong survivability, then the team will be wiped out later. But this kind of rule damage that ignores all dodges, shields, and even orders, no matter how strong the defense is, there will always be a time when it can't be resisted. Then the question is, how to eliminate the shield on the boss? Qinfeng felt awkward. There is no hint at all in this regard. At this moment, his Umbra perception has completely covered the entire Worldspine Mountain, and he didn't find any mechanism anywhere. Obviously, there is no mechanism that Qinfeng has not dealt with. In this case, I can only try it first. Qinfeng decided to test it first. At this time, the shockwave damage of the Worldspine Mountain was released every 3 seconds, and the damage was getting higher and higher as the whole mountain seemed to come alive. A large number of players in the surrounding area fled to the distance. While fleeing, they looked back in horror. They heard, once you die in the hands of this boss, all your attributes will be reduced by 50%, and it will be permanent. How dare they stay where they are? Stay. Each of them wanted to run as far as 1,000 miles away, but their speed was obviously not that fast, and after the boss was activated, all players in the surrounding area were considered to be in combat mode, and they could not use means such as teleportation. They could only run. Isn't this boss too scary? With more than 100 billion HP? What kind of full-screen instant kill mechanism is there? The key is that this boss has an invincible shield. Shadow hasn't made any movement yet. Could he have been killed by the shockwave of the boss? It's really possible. I found out that the Indian monkey next door was killed by the shockwave and lost more than 4 million HP. He was a hidden professional Blood Bowl warrior. Shadow is an assassin. So he may not be more tanky than that guy, right? Damn it. This Shadow came here inexplicably and released a boss? He really doesn't care about our lives. That's not the case. If he really didn't care, he wouldn't remind us to evacuate. I guess Shadow doesn't know that this boss is so scary. A group of people fled the scene, and there were fleeing people everywhere, but Qinfeng ignored those people at all. The shockwave attack of the Worldspine Mountain was launched every 3 seconds, and the attack range was getting larger and larger. It originally only affected the area within the mountain, but soon, it was spreading outside the mountain. The current shockwave attack still failed to break Qinfeng's defense, but Qinfeng did not dare to waste time. Let me see what's wrong with your shield. Qinfeng raised his hand and threw a shadow blade, which flew out from hundreds of meters away. Now Qinfeng's skill range is too far, and it seems more handy to deal with this super huge boss, so he is not too passive. And when Qinfeng threw a shadow blade and landed on the ice and snow shield on the outer layer of the boss mountain, the completely invincible shield changed color in an instant. It was originally close to the color of pure white snow, but after being hit by the shadow blade, it directly showed a mixture of 3 colors: lavender, ice blue, and black. Aren't these 3 types of damage? Qinfeng frowned as he saw this. Now his damage will add 100% lightning damage, 99, 79% ice damage, 7% poison damage, and the original 100% dark damage, which is the basic damage of Shadow Blade, but only 3 of the colors appeared on the boss. The poison damage, which accounts for the lowest proportion, should be represented by dark green, but it did not appear on the boss's shield. The original Snow White shield on the entire mountain suddenly turned into a mixture of lavender, ice blue, and black, covered by 3 colors. And it is still invincible. The invincible shield of the boss was dyed into 3 colors. This situation made Qinfeng even more confused. How to break this shield. Soon, more than half a minute passed, and Qinfeng had suffered more than 10 shockwave attacks. And the basic damage of this shockwave attack had increased to more than 100 million. At this time, the shockwave attack can already hurt Qinfeng, and when Qinfeng was hurt by the shockwave and had not died yet, he found that various superordinate effect scales began to stack above his head. Fortunately, I am immune to nightmares and instant death. Qinfeng raised his hand and took the time to release the Grey Chicken. A mouthful of Fountain of Chaos sprayed toward Qinfeng. The name of the skill is the Fountain of Chaos, but what was sprayed was a ball of black flame, which directly put Qinfeng into a state of chaos immunity. Wait, I have always wanted to ask, why is this ball of fire the fountain of chaos? Qinfeng couldn't help asking. Gray Chicken stretched out his wings and scratched his head. Maybe we Hell Phoenixes don't have saliva, only mouth fire. The fire that comes out of our mouths is equivalent to human saliva. Qinfeng, although it's a bit weird, Qinfeng really has to rely on this state of chaos immunity now. He transferred all the upper resistances to the other 4 upper affixes. Whispering, Corruption, Withering. These 3 resistances are all pulled to the highest. None of them can be missing. Not to mention Whispering. Once the corruption gauge is full, all of Qinfeng's buff states will be invalid. If the Wither gauge is full, all the damage caused by Qinfeng will be reduced to 1%, and he will not be able to beat this boss. The only upper affix that Qinfeng did not assign resistance to is Stripping, because the spine of this world is completely immune to any upper affixes, so it doesn't matter if it is stripped. So, in just a short moment, the peeling gauge on Qinfeng's head was full, and all the offensive super suffixes on his body were invalid, but Qinfeng didn't care. He observed it for a while and found that the super suffix of the boss's attack increased very slowly. At least for Qinfeng, who had the old Scourge Snake Fang, it was not a threat at all. That's right. If my super resistance can't withstand it, who else can? Qinfeng solved the super suffix problem and continued to focus on the shield that had been dyed into 3 colors. In fact, before Qinfeng attacked the shield, some players around had already attacked the boss for some unknown reason. But unfortunately, those attacks could not break the defense and did not cause any changes to the shield. Only when Qinfeng's Shadow Blade flew out did the shield change. So, this shield can absorb damage? Then why is my poison elemental damage not reflected in it? Qinfeng frowned. And suddenly, his shadow perception made him realize that the 3 colors on the shield seemed to be seeping into the shield. This shield seems to be 5 meters thick. I threw a Shadow Blade, and the damage of the 3 colors spread and penetrated into the shield for a few millimeters. Does it mean to attack the shield until the elemental colors contained in the attack completely penetrate the shield? Qinfeng realized that his guess was probably correct. But is it really that simple? Let's try it first. Qinfeng didn't think too much about it. Anyway, even if he died, he still had 3 lives. If it didn't work, he could just kill some monsters around him and he could continue to revive with full blood. So Qinfeng's trial and error cost was very low. Just go ahead. Shadow of Slaughter. Shadow Blade. Qinfeng's 5 clones, together with his original body, first doubled their basic attacks with Shadow Warp, and then released Shadow Blades at the same time, bursting out the highest damage at the fastest speed, hundreds of Shadow Blade attacks per second, falling on the giant snow mountain like a torrential rain, attacking the invincible shield with 3 colors. This mountain seems to have not moved. Then I can fully benefit from the 10 times movement speed increase from the Deathwing Angel in this case. Each of Qinfeng's Shadow Blades can cause 700 to 800 billion basic damage, compared with the 72 level Beidou Brother encountered in the corresponding Abyss World in the Magic City. Qinfeng's casual Shadow Blade has a basic damage of 10 times that of the opponent. Not to mention, Qinfeng and his 5 Shadow Clones can throw more than 200 Shadow Blades per second. Puff, puff, puff. Invisible Shadow Blades fell on the invincible shield, making the shield, the 3 colors on the shield, spread faster and faster. In front of Qinfeng, the boss was too huge. Now when he was close to the attack, Qinfeng felt like he was attacking a wall, not a boss. This wall is so hard. Still, in Qinfeng's shadow perception, the 3 colors were going deeper into the shield and continuously penetrating. Boom, boom, boom. The shockwave attack from the World Spine Mountain continued to sweep across Qinfeng. Although Qinfeng was invisible, he still took the damage. Fortunately, the damage was still not high and acceptable. Just over a minute after the battle began, under Qinfeng's continuous Shadow Blade attack, the light purple, ice blue and black colors finally spread to the entire shield, and penetrated within 5 meters of the shield. There is a change. Qinfeng looked closely and saw that the invincible shield finally melted in an instant. Instead, it was the boss's health bar of 1,910. 8 billion finally showed up and turned into a long, bright red bar stretching across the sky. The boss's health bar showed up. This is good news. But the bad news is, the World Spine Mountain absorbed the power of the Thunder Element, Ice Element, and Dark Element, and will be immune to the damage of these 3 elements in the next 60 seconds. Note, the boss's invincible shield will be reset after 60 seconds. When this system prompt sounded in Qinfeng's mind, Qinfeng finally understood what the mechanism of this boss was. You must first focus your fire to penetrate its shield. After breaking through the shield, you will have 1 minute of output time, but in this process, the 3 elements with the highest damage will be completely immune in the next 60 seconds of output time. The boss is completely immune to the Thunder Element, Ice Element, and Dark Element. At the same time, Qinfeng also kept throwing Shadow Blades at the boss. I saw that the damage numbers of only tens of thousands kept popping up above the boss's head. Those were the poisonous element damage that was not immune to the Shadow Blade damage. Feeling those pitiful damage values, Baya's soul sent a message. Congratulations, little brother Shadow. You finally met a boss that you can't kill in seconds. It's worth celebrating. After receiving the soul message, Qinfeng's face looked a little strange. Thunder element, ice element, and dark element. Although the boss is immune, but he has other means. In his hand, he still holds the pure physical damage instant destruction. Of course. Qinfeng can see that when the boss's health bar is revealed, there are tiny scales on the health bar. These tiny scales mean that the boss has the attribute of injury limit. Every time you are hurt, you can't break through any small scale at once. You must rely on multiple injuries to hit the boss's health bar. This is another form of injury limit, but it also belongs to the category of injury limit. There is a limit to the damage, it's not a big problem. The mercy of the goddess of death, I finally have the chance to use it. Qinfeng held the soft white bud blade in his hand, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The processing mechanism just now does not count. Since the boss health bar is revealed, there is no suspense about what will happen next. Under Qinfeng's continuous attack for a minute, the invincible shield of the entire mountain of the World Spine Mountain finally collapsed. On the mountain, originally covered with white snow, a translucent barrier of 3 colors was formed, representing immunity to 3 elemental damage, namely Thunder Element, Ice Element, and Dark Element. At the same time, there were countless ice chips and gravel that burst out from the mountain and danced around the entire mountain once hit by those ice chips and gravel. You will suffer super high physical damage and ice element damage. Fortunately, the attacks of these ice chips and gravel can be dodged. Although this boss has a high hit correction, but on average, it takes 5 attacks to hit me once, Qinfeng remained invisible, and ice chips and gravel continued to hit him from all directions. The damage caused by each hit easily reached Qinfeng's injury limit, which is 756 million damage. If calculated based on the basic damage, the damage value of the ice and gravel surrounding the boss is too explosive, which is stronger than Qinfeng. So Qinfeng can conclude that the damage of these ice and gravel is a percentage of the health value, and has a hit correction of about 50%. It is worthy of being the world spine. If it is replaced by a general mythical boss, the hit correction is 20,000%, which is already amazing. It can be imagined that if an ordinary player comes to attack this world spine, the dodge rate is basically useless, because the hit correction of the boss is too high, only in front of Qinfeng. With Qinfeng's terrifying dodge rate, can he restrain the super high hit correction of this boss? After all, now Qinfeng will be fully restored as long as he dodges the attack. In this World Spine Mountain, there is no means to suppress the treatment and blood recovery ability. This means that the ice and gravel that are flying around and violently in the output stage are no threat to Qinfeng at all. And this is what makes Baya feel extremely shocked. No Shadow, you are in the output stage. Why don't you hide? The damage of the surrounding stone and ice is almost certain to hit, and each hit is 50% of the maximum health value. You didn't move. How come you didn't die? Baya didn't know what Qinfeng had experienced before, including the survival challenge of the ancient god of natural disasters. Paya is now a weapon. She can only feel what her weapon form touches, or can only detect the souls in a small range nearby. Her perception ability is particularly limited. Even in the survival challenge of the ancient god of natural disasters, she couldn't feel the souls of those natural disaster elves, let alone what kind of survival crisis Qinfeng is facing. She only saw the soul of the frost elf that possessed Qinfeng and became a follower after the challenge. It's the same now. Paya could feel that Qinfeng's soul had not moved at all, and she had just clearly felt that the Shadow Blade dart she had released as a weapon had landed on the boss and caused a slight poisonous element damage. This meant that the boss had entered the attack phase, and the surrounding environment was definitely full of ice and gravel. Shadow didn't even hide. Bai Ya knew very well how difficult it was to attack in this extreme environment. As expected of Shadow, Bai Ya felt a little bitter. She compared her combat power after she got a small authority with the current Shadow, and it was completely not the same level. What kind of authority could allow Shadow to have such a strong combat power? Of course, she could not answer this question. In the face of Bai Ya's shock, Qinfeng smiled lightly. Hide. Do you need to hide from this little bit of wind and frost? This made Bai Ya even more shocked. Before she could send any soul message again, Qinfeng raised his hand and directly activated the Divine Stunt. The Mercy of the Goddess of Death? Before this, Qinfeng had never actively used this skill, but now, when this skill is used, every attack of Qinfeng will add super high continuous damage of death poison, because Qinfeng's skill level has been upgraded. The toxin damage has also increased from the previous 335% to the current 385%. You should know that Qinfeng's original damage composition is 100% dark damage, 100% thunder damage. 99, 79% ice damage, and 77% poison damage, all added up to only 376, 79%. Now that Qinfeng has activated the Divine Stun, the toxin damage alone exceeds the original total damage during the shield breaking process. Beat to the 3 highest types of damage received by the OSS will be immune. Fortunately, my passive poison damage accounts for the 4th place. Now it is not immune, which is exactly what he wants. Then, Qinfeng held the White Bud Blade and started to charge directly. Bone Eviscerating Blade. After 3 seconds of invincibility, Qinfeng instantly held 2 swords and slashed across the surface of the World Spine Mountain. The effect of this divine stunt directly removed the 2 highest damage reductions of the boss. Qinfeng didn't know how many damage reduction affixes this boss itself had, but this Bone Eviscerating Blade can at least increase the damage received by the boss by several times or even dozens of times than Shadow Blade. It's still Shadow Blade. Qinfeng didn't even get close to use instant kill, because Qinfeng found the closer he got to the boss, the more ice chips and gravel there are, the more violent the storm will be, although Qinfeng ignored the damage of these things. But while these things cause damage, they also have strong control strength. Ice chips can gradually freeze people, and the Howling Wind can pull people towards the boss. The closer to the boss, the more ice chips there are, and the easier it is to be frozen. Fortunately, Qinfeng's control resistance is now super strong. Under the 7% final control resistance of the Frost Elf Lingxi on his body, the inviolable affix on Qinfeng's body directly showed a trend of slowing down when being controlled by this boss. You can almost completely ignore the control of the same level in this terrifying ice storm area. Even if a 40-50 level player with a full set of mythical equipment comes in, he may not be able to last for a few seconds. But Qinfeng is swimming in it, of course. Even so, Qinfeng did not dare to get too close to the boss. Although his inviolability affix drops slowly, if he gets close to the boss, the concept is completely different. So, Qinfeng simply uses the Shadow Blade. His original body, plus 5 Shadow Clones, began to throw Shadow Blades wildly again. Although the Dark Element, Thunder Element, and Ice Element damage are all invalid, but Bai Ya was shocked to find that the damage of the Shadow Blade Qinfeng hit this time was directly exploded. Just now, a Shadow Blade caused more than 100 zeros in damage. But now, the damage of a Shadow Blade directly exceeded 100 million. It was 1,000 times higher than before. What skills did he use? Bai Ya's scalp tingled instantly.